Hey, so there's a lot of misconceptions going on around the Gaza conflict at the moment, and I wanted to address some of them. I guess, to blame really is these one-liner sound bites that are, easy to say and very catchy. These meme ways of talking nowadays. These one-liners. So I wanted to just add nuance to all these one-liners because they're not. A lot of them are false, but a lot of them aren't 100% false. They're just not nuanced, and hopefully maybe bring some nuance to these misconceptions. Okay, so first one, Israel is having an emotional response to October 7th. So yeah, of course they are. Um, but just to put it into the military context, Operation Swords of Iron was one of a few hundred plans in the IDF Tactical Department Library when it was originally formulated. So this is not now. Many high-level tactical strategists worked together with cool heads to prepare this plan, not knowing, like they didn't know October 7th was going to happen, but they had the plan already ready. So they didn't know if it would ever be pulled from the shelf and used in the future when they prepared this plan. It was just a theoretical plan that Israel could use in a certain situation. And there's hundreds of these plans. After the October 7th massacre, the strategy department would have presented a handful of possible responses, and the government quickly selected one of them. The emotional reaction was therefore involved in the selection of the plan, but not in the formulation of it. It took less than 24 hours for everyone to get their exact orders and begin operations. The evidence of this is the highly organized military deployment and coordination. 2. Israel is in control of the utilities and resources that enter Gaza: gas, water, and electricity. So Israel obviously shut off its aid to Gaza as soon as this as soon as this conflict started. So Gaza became what does that mean, right? So Gaza became governmentally independent region in 2005, but Israel has continued to assist in providing resources for the past 17, 18 years. Gaza is only dependent on Israel because they did not use those 18 years to fully actualize their independence. Instead, they did other things. Still, Gaza was mostly independent as Israel only provided a small percentage of their overall usage pre-October 7th. Despite thousands of rockets being sent into Israel over the past 18 years, Israel has continued to assist Gaza. Israel has never been under any obligation to supply Gaza with any resources. But in addition to these utilities, it has been continuously supplying Gaza with food, concrete, and other building supplies. Egypt is responsible for a small southern border with Gaza and for inspecting shipments across this border. And Israel is responsible for searching all shipments to Gaza by sea and across its larger border. Weapons were still somehow smuggled into Gaza. So Israel is controlling the border to Gaza in order to eliminate weapons entering Gaza, not to eliminate aid. Israel is committing war crimes and genocide. Okay. So Israel not only adheres strictly to international law, but often goes above and beyond these requirements. But I think what people are picking up on is maybe international law doesn't adhere properly to a correct moral code. So we might have a problem with international law matching a moral code, right? Israel is following international law, but maybe they're not following a moral code. And thus, an argument for Israel behaving in an immoral manner is valid, okay? It's a valid argument, and you could present that. But Israel is not committing any war crimes. If you believe that Israel is behaving in an immoral manner, then international law must be reformulated to reflect a higher moral code. But until then, Israel is not, by definition, committing war crimes. Okay, so now let's talk about genocide. So Israel has just recently bombed its 10,000th target. That's a lot of bombs. The death toll as reported by Hamas, which regularly lies, it's hard to believe them, but it's reported to be 14,000 civilians and no terrorists, as Hamas considers all of its combatants to be civilians. About 9,000 of those civilians are reported to have died from airstrikes and the other 5,000 in combat. So if this number is to be believed, it means that 0.9 Gazans die on average per airstrike. So, and a lot of these airstrikes are targeting actual terrorists and hopefully killing them, right? That's the point. So if they're only killing 0.9 Gazans per airstrike, that means some airstrikes are not killing anybody. Israel is therefore either very bad at targeting civilians or they are focusing on infrastructure rather than people. So that's not genocide, infrastructure. Again, I'm not saying that this is morally okay, but it is protected under international. This tactic is protected under international law, right? So if you have a problem with what Israel is doing, again, you're not in the Israeli military. You didn't formulate these plans. But what you could do is you can petition to change the international law that countries like Israel need to follow a stricter code. Israel is beyond scrutiny. So, okay, if you're going to scrutinize Israel, at least do it in relation to actual problems. That's my take, rather than invented ones. So here's how you do it. Now, again, I'm going to go into a few of Israel's problems. Israel has many problems, but all countries, you could do the same thing. You could just tear into a country and all of its problems, right? So I'm going to tear into Israel a little bit right here. So, okay, Israel is not a perfect utopian society and faces many internal problems and often enacts poor solutions. The democratic nature of Israel attempts to ensure that it can be progressive and modify itself as time progresses. Attempts, right? Like in many other nations, existing bureaucratic systems limit the ability to adapt and change. The judicial system and law enforcement agencies are asymmetrically enabled, and a case could be made for categorizing Israel as a police state today. And this is something that a lot of people don't talk about because they don't live here. They don't really know what's going on. But here, I'm going to give you some ammunition to bash Israel a little bit if you really want to bash it correctly, right? So many injustices occur as a result of this power imbalance. A key example of this is guilty even if proven innocent. So citizens are often discriminated against based on their record of arrest or detentions without conviction or being charged. And even if they were acquitted or they were found innocent, they can still use these arrests, even though they didn't do anything wrong, which can be used, or legally didn't do anything wrong. It can be used to restrict their rights in the future. Any arrest they've had, any connection to any incidents, that even if there were no arrests in that incident, it goes on their permanent record and it can be used to deny them rights in the future. Citizens can be placed in detention or prison for 24 hours without being charged or notifying anyone. They can just take you off the street. It doesn't matter who you are, Jewish, not Jewish, take you off the street, put you in jail, and tell nobody. You just disappear. This period is often extended by a judge without a trial. So more than 24 hours, sometimes 3 days, sometimes a week, sometimes longer, under the pretense that they would interfere with an investigation if released. Police often, okay, this is another one. Police often covertly camp locations. They hide and they sort of peek and they catch you on camera, or travel in unmarked vehicles to hand out fines to motorists. And they really go the extra mile to set themselves up in places. I'm not even going to talk about entrapment here. Entrapment in Israel is completely legal. They're allowed to entrap you and put you in jail for committing a crime, even though you would never have committed that crime had the police not been involved. Accusations are enough to hand out restraining orders or separate fathers from children. So just a spouse accusing somebody of anything, it's enough to act. Okay. Police often enter private property when called and conduct unrelated searches. So as a result, the Israeli people are both protected and oppressed by their legal system today. So here you go. Here's some real criticism, scrutiny that you can give to Israel. Okay, let's get back to these misconceptions. Settlers oppress Palestinians. So this is not completely false. Throughout history in the settlements, both sides have conducted atrocities against each other. It's just true. Israel's legal system attempts to find anyone who breaks the law in this way on both sides, okay, and bring them to justice. In contrast, the Palestinian Authority and Hamas award those who commit atrocities against Israeli citizens with praise and monetary stipends. They name streets after them. They put them in history books. So again, the legal system attempts to find anyone. The legal system really does its best to convict and put as many people in jail as possible. It's just an institution that is trying to oppress anyone that it possibly can. Maybe not intentionally, but that's just the result. That's just what it ends up doing. So don't worry, it does oppress its own people. Settlers occupy Palestinian land. So throughout Judea and Samaria, there's a lot of uninhabited land today. I just drove through it yesterday. It's just a lot of forests and open fields and open land. All settlements since the land was captured from Jordan in 1967 were established on uninhabited land. There's just a lot of it there, okay? And it's limited and restricted who can settle there. The Israeli government has taken aggressive action with many settlers and Palestinians alike who attempt to create settlements without proper approval. So, I mean, lots of stories of, friends and, I don't know, people that you meet here that try to set up a settlement without like an illegal settlement. And in the middle of the night, the Israeli army will come in and they will just come with a bulldozer, take down everything you've done, take you out of there, and oftentimes put them in jail or whatever, remove them by force, right? So this happens. And so this happens to both sides. Israel is an apartheid state. Okay, this accusation minimizes the plight of anyone who's actually suffered under true apartheid. So it's not very responsible to throw around this accusation. All Israeli citizens benefit and suffer from the same laws and policies in Israel. Arab Israelis have the added benefit of being able to travel into Area A regions where Jews are forbidden. So these are strictly Palestinian Authority regions where Jews can't go in, but Arab Israelis are allowed to go in there. Palestinians who are not Israeli citizens have added restrictions and do not benefit from many rights afforded to Israeli Arabs. So this is where you can make a case for apartheid, but these are not Israeli citizens. These are Palestinian Authority citizens. So as it is the Palestinian Authority, not Israel, who is responsible for their rights and well-being as citizens. So apartheid states are strictly between its citizens, making some of its citizens less than, and some of its are different laws applying to different citizens. So if anything, Arab Israelis have more rights than, because they can go in other areas. Here, these are not actually Israeli citizens. And if you want to believe in a two-state solution, then they never will be Israeli citizens. Whereas they could theoretically be a one-state solution where these become Israeli citizens and benefit from full rights in Israel. And the Palestinian Authority has no obligation to care for their citizens. Israel attacked Arab villages and stole land. So this is an old accusation. This is the idea of the Nukba, the disaster. So before the establishment of the State of Israel pre-1947-48, many organized Jewish militias were formed in direct response to the need to defend themselves from their Arab neighbors. Okay. During this chaotic time, many atrocities took place on both sides. So a lot of attacks from, Arab sides at first, and then eventually Jewish sides were retaliating. You know what? I don't care if you want to change the narrative and say Jews started the attacks. It doesn't matter to me. Just both sides created a diverging narrative of justification for their actions and vilification of the other. Okay. They were vilifying each other and justifying each other, attacking each other through that. So this is pre-establishment of the State of Israel. At the time of the establishment of the state, the majority of the local Arab population fled to the neighboring countries in order to return after the destruction of Israel. This was the promise. This was the request of all of the neighboring states was, hey, come. They actually baited them. They said, come in, we're going to give you back all the land once we conquer. So a lot of Arabs naively believed this. And much to their disappointment, Israel won the war and refused to allow these Arabs to return. So I don't know if it's moral or immoral. This is just what happened. During this time, almost all of the Jews in the broader Arab region were forced to leave and were absorbed as refugees into Israel. So it wasn't just Arabs having to leave Jewish lands, it was Jews having to leave Arab lands. So it was just a big swap in population at that time. The number of Jews who left the Arab lands during this time were roughly equal to the Arab population that left Israel. So saying that Israel attacked Arab villages and stole land, technically, I think during the war, one Arab village was attacked. I don't know if there was more than one, but it was a unit, and it's looked down upon today. And it was an atrocity, and it's not good that it happened. But and it also scared a lot of the other Arab villages and made them leave. So yeah, this is not this is a dark time in Israel's history, but technically, this one incident doesn't mean it was categorically the way Israel operated, and they technically didn't steal land under law. So there's nuance to this claim. Jews are white colonizers. So this is a funny one. So I don't know. It's just thrown around a lot by naive university students. So I brought it here. The majority of Jews around the world are indeed white in skin color. Not that this should matter, although they are originally from Middle Eastern descent. However, the majority of the Jews in Israel have darker skin color, including many Black Jews from Ethiopia. So overall, the general Jewish population is mostly Ashkenazi all around the world. But in Israel, the population is mostly Sephardi or Edot HaMizrach, just darker skinned Jews. So they're not white. First of all, let's get rid of that one. The Jews in Israel are not white colonizers. So maybe they're dark colonizers, right? Since the ancient kingdom of Judea, there has never been a ruling government in the land of Israel. And there's always been a significant Jewish presence in Israel. This includes a Jewish cultural presence, as many literary and cultural works of art have been produced in Israel throughout history. So there's evidence that Jews have been here for all that time. It's not even brought into question. But so just a little thing on the last government in Israel, in Judea. There's a fast every year. It's called Tzom Gedalia, where there was a chance for a renewed Jewish government in Israel, but another Jewish group came in and slaughtered everyone, killed everyone, all of these refugees, and they baited them in. It's just a really horrible massacre that Jews did to themselves at that time. And then that was it. That was the end of a Jewish government in Israel. It was like a small chance to rebirth it, but that was really the final blow. So we have a fast every year commemorating that. So Jewish militias in British occupied Palestine, 1943, actually fought and committed terror attacks against the British colonial force in Israel. Okay, so the real colonial force in Israel were the British, and Jews were actually terrorists at that time, trying to fight, or resistance, trying to fight off the British at that time. And Jews have no other place to go. Throughout history, Jews outside of Israel were always seen as outsiders and suffered or thrived at the behest of their hosting kingdom. So most colonizers are colonizing to expand their empire, right? That's why they colonize. They are trying to grow their empire. This is not an empire growth. This is not what the British did in Israel. This is, Jews have no other place to go. This is their one and only colonizing project. So, I mean, you could call them another word, maybe settlers or encroachers or something else, but they're not colonizers per se. I would just say that's the wrong word. So they're not white and they're not colonizers. Please recontextualize this claim. I'm sure you could make a better claim that's a little bit more accurate to what Jews are, because this is just very, university students, this is just very bad. I don't know where you got this from, but hopefully you can do better in the future on this claim. Gaza as a concentration camp. So this is actually coming from even academics and from Jews too. It's just bad. So anyways, there is no doubt that the people of Gaza suffer under their government. The people of Gaza are independent. They have their own government. They could have thrived. Instead, they chose a different direction, and that was their choice. And obviously, it's not all of the people's fault, but they did elect that government. And, you know, the sins of the father, the children are suffering based on the decisions of their parents. There hasn't been an election since. And yeah, there's no doubt that the people of Gaza are suffering. And it is not an ideal situation for them. Okay. And it's okay to admit that their financial aid is getting stolen and embezzled by their government officials. So if you're donating any money to Hamas or donating any money to places to help Gazans, all of that money is going, it's either a scam and they're using the plight of the Palestinians just to make money for themselves, or it's going to their governmental officials, and all of your tax dollars and the government help that your countries are giving, and a lot of countries are giving money to Gaza. I mean, it's just unbelievable. There's, compared to the number of people in Gaza, they are getting a lot of financial aid, but it's not getting to them. It's going all to their governmental officials. The majority of economic opportunities in Gaza are in service to Hamas and their objective of the destruction of Israel. Their educational institution from preschool up to and including university is focused on the indoctrination and training of their youth to hate and destroy Israel. If Gaza is a prison or a concentration camp, as a lot of people are claiming, it's Hamas that keeps it that way, not Israel. Okay, so that said, Gaza is it's in a very terrible state at the moment. And a lot of people might want to help and help the people of Gaza. And I know Israel, a lot of Israelis also want to help. Israelis have been trying to help. The ones who were slaughtered on October 7th were the ones that were trying to help them the most, ironically enough. So, but many fake businesses are popping up and advertising for donations to help Gazans. So just be careful and make sure that your money is getting to the people on the ground. Don't donate to UNRWA. If your governments are donating to UNRWA, don't do it. Just it's a trap. It's not good. Do not give them any money, as they're a front for Hamas, and they're essentially complicit in the current state of Gaza. They have an interest in Gazan suffering because they're making money that way. A lot of UNRWA workers are teaching hate. All of the UNRWA textbooks are responsible for indoctrinating the youth. UNRWA is just a very bad organization. It's run by the UN, and please do not give any of your money to UNRWA. If you really truly care about the people of Gaza, do not give UNRWA any money. What is needed most? So if countries really want to help, they should be sending organized teams to help set up safe zones in Gaza for displaced Gazans to live until the war is over. really we need organized countries or organized organizations coming in on ships and setting up refugee camps while for them to have safe haven during the war, because the war is just going to get worse for them. Israel is going to go towards the south next, and yeah, this is really the kind of help that Gazans truly need. So, okay, the current war is a disaster. I will admit that it's pretty bad, but keep in mind that although this war is a disaster, there are far worse conflicts in the world at the moment that are not getting a fair level of attention due to everyone's emotional involvement in this conflict. So between 200 to 1,000 people a day are still dying in the Russia-Ukraine war. For some reason, this conflict has just taken over the media. We have other conflicts that are just as bad: Myanmar, Maghreb, Ethiopia, Sudan, Colombia, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Somalia, Kenya, Nigeria, Congo, Uganda, Iraq, Khyber, Pakistan, Kivu, Rwanda, Sudan, Boko Haram, Syria, Yemen, and there's more. They're all facing deadly conflicts at the moment. There's also ongoing culture wars, which involve the vilification of the other side. And, just learning from the past, that's going to escalate. If you're vilifying the other side, that's just going to escalate, and there's going to be some kind of explosion and conflict there. So just keep in mind that this is not the only conflict, and a lot of our attention should be on all of these other conflicts proportionally. So hopefully we can move past this and get to a state of peace for everybody, get to a win-win situation where, we don't require the destruction of another people or another country in order for us to thrive and flourish. We should have a win-win situation where we can both independently thrive and flourish. And yeah, that's really what peace is. So hopefully we can get this win-win situation. And yeah, this Swords of Iron, hopefully we will turn these swords into plowshares like the prophecy, and there won't be any more war. Okay, everyone. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.